Well, it's another occasion, another opportunity to bring you conversations that matter to your home and your families. And yes, helping you definitely to make homes out of houses. This is Home Affairs on your superstation, Joy 99.7 FM. I am Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. I'm sure some of you were wondering, no, that's not Adam's voice. Yes, it's not. But I'm glad to be doing this for Adam for the next few weeks. This morning, I'd just like to encourage all of us. Yes, times are hard, and that's why we brought you that song, It Will Get Better. We can only hope and pray that things will get better. But I would like to encourage you this morning to look out for somebody, look out for a neighbor, look out for a family friend, a church member, a colleague at work. If you haven't seen someone in a long time, call out to find out how they're doing. Who knows, they may be struggling and you could help them get out of that situation. Also, in these times where we all say things are difficult, it's much easier for some of us. So let's try to help our other colleagues, our friends, our families, so that we could all come out of this stronger and better. Now, over the past few weeks, our conversations have been dedicated to singles, and we've been talking about the kind of issues they should be focusing on ahead of marriage. Today, we'd like to move a step further and talk about the first few years after marriage. It's been established by some people closest to couples, I'm talking about lawyers, counselors, relatives, that the first 5 years of any marriage appear to be the hardest. Statistics show that this phase is where most divorces happen. And yeah, definitely, yeah, the honeymoon is over, the event is over, the attention on your marriage is waning. And the realities of spending the rest of your life with this one person just begin to set in. The real work begins. And for a lot of us, children come in just when you're getting to, settle, get to know your partner, then boom, the kids appear. Well, today I've been joined once again, Kweku Yamwa Pencil. He's counselor, lawyer, and pastor. He wears many hats, and I'm glad he can share different perspectives with us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning once again. And Phoebe Besemete is a family counselor. Now, before we delve into our conversation, I would just like to say, for those of you who like to share your experiences with us, we are glad to hear them. You can do so via WhatsApp number 055 111 1997 055 1997. And also, before we begin, let me just remind you that Home Affairs is brought to us by Amasha Partners Limited and I Care, Compu Ghana, Passion for Technology, Onga, Mama's Helping Hand, and Royal King Cracker, Take Chalk Your Hunger, Cerelac, It's All Good, Mom. So once again, let me just invite my guests again. I'll be announcing our phone lines, and we'll be picking your calls as well, read messages, and take our submissions from you. Right, let me start with you, Rev, because you are joining us in studio. I'll go to Phoebe later, who's joining us via Zoom. First and foremost, is the first 5 years really the make and break of any marriage, or we're just trying to scare couples?
There are studies. I'm talking about scientific studies that have been undertaken by psychologists in other countries. I'm talking about US. I'm talking about Europe, and the statistics bear out the fact that the first 5 years are the most critical in every marriage, meaning that a lot of couples go through divorce in the fifth year. And so that's an established fact, except that in Ghana, I'm not aware of any studies that have been undertaken, but some of these things are generally applied, though when you come into different countries, separate statistics may exist. In Ghana, I'm not aware of the statistics, but we are dealing with the general statistics that exist mostly in the US and European countries. So the answer is yes.
But why does it seem to be the case?
Well, I mean, the same studies bear out a lot of social factors that exist, and In particular, the first 5 years. In fact, the seventh year is also another critical year, but let's talk about the first 5 years. Typically, in every home, every married home, in every marriage, within the first 5 years, we've got little children have come in. They've come to change the environment, the circumstances. New pressures have arisen, a combination of your work as well as new responsibilities arising out of taking care of these newcomers in the home. And in a typical Ghanaian marriage, in the first 5 years, we are looking at a minimum of 2 children, or on the average, 3 children in the first 5 years. And of course, if the couple who hitherto had themselves to deal with now have 2 or 3 little kids between the two of them, then all other factors come in, and I will use the word in quote, hair breaks loose, because the parties themselves are having their own problem. Children have to be attended to, work schedules have to be kept at what they are. So it's the combination of all of these things and the associated tensions that come in that combine to create some environment that, if the parties are not, I should use the word, wise enough, will collapse their marriage.
Or maybe if they are not well prepared enough. Let me come to you, Phoebe. Do we prepare couples enough for the first 5 years of their marriages in our various counseling sessions, especially in churches? Because here in Ghana, we don't have people move to professional counselors and say, we are getting married, we need professional help. It's usually the churches that organize these sessions for them. Are we preparing them well enough?
Well, what I'm beginning to see is more and more people are actually choosing professional counselors due to the fact that they have found out that sometimes the church counseling does not cover the full array of challenges that a couple could face in the first few years of marriage. But however, I have to say that some churches are doing a better job, and they are augmenting and making their programs more robust. Now, one of the reasons why I think we are having an issue is I think we're not speaking in a practical sense to these couples. I think a lot of things are spoken about in terms of the concept of faithfulness, the concept of this, the concept of that. And I think it's a good foundation to start the conversation. But it's very imperative that we go deeper into understanding the couple's individual personalities and their expectations and their projections, and also their capacity for adversity. Because within the 5 years is when you face the greatest adversity and challenges within your marriage. And if you have not been prepared, if you are not ready to face those adversities, it can be very crippling and challenging for the marriage. I mean, as my co-counselor was saying, issues with finances, with having children. But then it's also a time when the couple also begin to see themselves as they really are, living together. And this is a place where now they are really seeing their weaknesses, they're seeing their strengths, they're seeing who that person really is. I mean, when we are living alone with our parents and all that, we don't really see who we really are until we are living with someone who has not been brought up with us from an extremely different background. And that's where you see our differences begin to clash. It's not always a matter of right or wrong. It's some of our personal preferences that begin to clash. It's our personal expectations that begin to clash. And so you need to be prepared to face these challenges. And I think for us as counselors, we need to prepare the couple to understand that adversity is coming. And I think it's also quite sad, but when we're preparing them for marriage, what we're really doing sometimes is preparing them for the wedding. So it's about the budgeting, it's for the wedding, it's more about where to get the best dress and all that. And I think we just skim over the more important issues, because marriage is not the event, it's actually the lifelong commitment and covenant and partnership that you're creating with that person. And so if you're not prepared for that, within the first 5 years is where one realizes that, oh, I think you spend too much money, or I think to me you're a miser because maybe you like to save, or this person may have an issue with being faithful or being attracted to other women or other men. That's when these things really begin to show, or even things as simple as things to do with hygiene can become a hot button issue in a new marriage. And so I think that as counselors, we need to really address these critical issues. And then after the couple is married, I also sometimes suggest that they go through maybe another year of on and off, like check-ins with their counselors
Sure,
to
Phoebe.
help address some of these things
Mm.
before they flame up into something that they cannot
We'll
control.
get into that later because that's part of the conversation post marriage counseling and whether those services are readily
Yeah.
available as premarital counseling. But Phoebe, based on your submission about the introduction of kids and the couple not knowing themselves, getting to settle in and all, I mean this may sound a bit controversial, but would you prefer that a couple give themselves about a year or two as, of course, different individuals coming from different backgrounds, getting to know themselves, settling in before they introduce another human being, which comes along with many other things. You're a woman. We know what happens when women get pregnant and when children come in. Sometimes the whole emotional, psychological trauma that comes along with it definitely adds up to the whole issue. Would you suggest that?
Well, what I would suggest is, like I mentioned, during the counseling, I think the couple need to be encouraged to have like, how would I even put it? A very honest conversation about expectations when babies come in. What is that going to look like? Are we going to get help? Is my mom going to be able to move in? Do I move into my mom's house? Are you going to help me to change the diapers?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much do you think we should budget towards the delivery of the child? I know these things do not sound very romantic, but they are very critical issues that come up during that first year or first few years when they start having children. And the thing is, when you start planning like that, it gives you some sense of comfort and assurance. One of the reasons why people struggle with having the children, and as a mom of two, I experienced this even personally, is the lack of support. And when I say support, I'm not talking about people coming in to bath your child and helping you with the house and everything. It's even getting psychological support during those first few months after you've had a baby. A lot of women develop postpartum anxiety. Some develop the postpartum blues, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and more. And because it's not something that's often spoken about in our culture, in our setting, people don't know about it. So sometimes there's miscommunication, and the man doesn't understand where the woman is coming from and where her challenges are. I mean, I've heard a comment from one gentleman saying, "Oh, but women have been doing this for years. Why are we struggling? Haven't we been doing this for years?"
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of understanding and compassion. But that's also because the man does not really understand what the woman is going through. So we need to have these conversations. Getting pregnant, I believe the couple needs to sit down and have a conversation, and preferably with a counselor, with a professional therapist, to understand what is about to happen. I mean, they go to the doctor, they talk about the physical changes, but there are also psychological changes happening, emotional changes happening, hormonal changes happening. And even with the men, they are also going through their own process and they need support and they need that understanding and they need a place to talk about these things. The lack of that kind of support is what I've observed is one of the key reasons why a lot of couples are afraid to go anywhere near having children early, because they're like, hey, I don't know what this will do to me. I don't know what this will do to our marriage. But if there's information, it could even help them to plan and to prepare adequately towards, having that baby.
Mm. I'm glad you brought in the bit of support for men as well, because usually, Rev, when babies come in, all the attention is given to the woman and the child. And sometimes, and I had a friend tell me that I feel lonely, I feel left out. And these are real things that a lot of men go through that sometimes we totally forget. And also the additional financial burden. Unfortunately, we live in a society that places so much demand on the man, and the introduction of a child also sometimes throws them off a bit. But let me pose that same question to you, Rev. Should we be gentle on couples and allow them to find their own way? Because sometimes there's a lot of pressure coming. Oh, when are you having your child? Blah, 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 blah. And some people are literally forced into making babies because, oh, a certain mother-in-law keeps asking, or a certain sibling says, I want nieces to play with. And then sometimes the people who are left to deal with the repercussions are the couple themselves. Should we take it easy on them, and should we allow them to settle in first? You know, I'm told, so you're a pastor, you'll be able to tell me if I'm right or wrong, that in the Old Testament, for example, when a man got married, he was put off military duties for 1 year to be with his wife. And so sometimes that's a fact. Great. So sometimes these are some of the things that may help, or
Yeah, I agree with you. You see, I think for me, the most important thing is for every couple to agree between themselves, having regard to all their circumstances, what they want to do. If you lose that balance, you've lost it. It's not about mother, it's not about father. I keep on telling people that for most of us, even our parents could not have been our best advisors, because a lot of parents, with due respect, having regard to our circumstances, so forth and so on, are failures. They really want to live their lives through their children. The things that they think they lost out, they want to force it out on their children. And for me, the greatest security, especially for a man, that you can have is to have a fair idea of what you want to do. The other thing is to be able to work it out with your spouse. And talking about cultural taboos and so forth and so on, there are things, for instance, in our culture, men are not supposed to do for their wives, and so forth and so on. I mean, come on. You have to know who you are. You have to know who your wife is. And between the two of you, because what really happens is that in a marriage,
Yeah.
two people from different backgrounds completely. I grew up liking certain things just because I saw my father do them. I saw my father like them. I grew up hating things because I saw my father didn't like them. And therefore, that part is part of me. So my wife also comes from a different background. I grew up in a different community. My wife grew up in a different community. There are things that are acceptable in the community I came from. There are things that she considers strange. Like she was even talking about things like hygiene. I mean, marriage can descend into the kind of things that, I mean, man, I mean, I can wear one pants for 1 week. I mean, that's a man. You come into, I didn't even know how to wash my hands after use of whatever, because that's how I grew up.
right?
But you came into a home where the wife insists that you must wash your, she'll be looking at you. And she does things that are so annoying to me. Every time you sit in the car, you may wear a seatbelt. Come on. Or,
But,
you know,
but it's strange. Why do men find that annoying?
well, it's amazing. You know, when you grow up there, you know that you were just acting foolishly, but you know, you don't get anybody to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So I think the greatest security, as far as I'm concerned, I'm talking for men, is to know that this wife that you've married is for life. And the earlier you learn things that will make your marriage work from her perspective, the better for you. If I wanted to have more children, my wife didn't want to have more children. I had to understand her. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way these things are worked out. And therefore, unless so if we're living with expectation that your father wants this in your marriage, your mother wants this in your marriage has broken down before it starts. And so that's the first sense that any couple needs to have, and to allow these family suggestions and whatever. I've spoken to people, I've spoken to couples who have told me about things that their moms even insisted they must get out of the marriage. In our culture, the woman is told the man is not a pillow that you have to place your head upon. I have, through my own observation of life, and please mark this one out for me, The people in my age group, I love Ghanaians. A woman is growing up in a society. Listen carefully. This is a very serious matter. Maybe a lot of people do not know or they have not even conceptualized. I want people to appreciate this one. Your wife has a father, has a dedicated mother to the father. She grew up seeing her mother serve her father the best ways that she could. Nonetheless, the father has got 3 children outside the marriage. This is a psychological scar in your wife's mind. She marries you, a very nice man. She tries to do the best, but in her mind, she sees you in her father's image. Whatever her mom did for her father, the father still went out of the marriage. And it is in every Ghanaian home. I don't have the statistics, but about 50% or more. So therefore, this one wants to give herself to you. She wants to relate to you the best way she can. But then this thing is always part of a psychological thing that a lot of people can have not even appreciated. And in my own view, is one of the greatest factors that work against the marriage. So whatever, every time she's cautious. So the fathers have eaten grapes and their sons' teeth are set on edge. The annoying part of it is, for whatever I have not done, being judged according to a standard that was inflicted on that victim who is now passing it on in this marriage. And that's one of those things that, in my honest view, make a lot of our wives, they pull back. She doesn't do it deliberately, intentionally, but it is a factor, something that is at the back of the mind. And so when even it comes to that, even as I sit here, I'm not stating about your wife knows that you don't run around, but she's looking for the
Evidence.
funeral babies. You know, when men die, then the rich children come up. So that's the way you are judged. So these are all factors that when we talk about an issue like this, it works in the mind. So the little thing that will trigger all kinds of emotions, all kinds of feelings, all kinds of suspicions, all kinds of things. And she may not want to sit and wait for the further evidence of these things. So, in my view, let the couples trust each other, let them give each other the benefit of the doubt, and let them work out for themselves. The Bible says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. That is what I would add to this topic.
I.e., every home is different.
Naturally.
And everyone must find what works for them.
Naturally.
Let me just share this. Once you brought up the issue of the image of the girl's father affecting her relationship with her husband or partner. Yesterday, a friend on Facebook posted a video of a young man who was crying, literally huge tears rolling down his cheeks as he saw his wife walk down the aisle. The caption on that video was, "And he will still cheat." So I think for many people who may not even have fathers, some of these conversations in society feed into our appreciation of relationships.
Yes.
And I put a question under the post. She's yet to answer. I asked, do all men cheat? Phoebe, the things we hear going into marriage, yes, the pastors and the counselors do their own things, but there's what society is also saying. There's what our friends are also saying. And just at the back of our minds, we go in thinking, will this even work? How does that affect us?
Oh, it affects us so much. And it creates a mindset towards marriage. And like I mentioned before, our expectations of what marriage will bring. I mean, as Uncle Kwiku was mentioning, even some of the experiences we have within our own families will dictate what we're expecting from our spouse, what we're expecting in the marriage. I mean, I remember before I got married, and older woman said to me that, I would never get down and open the gates for my husband. He should always open the gates. And this was a hot button issue for her. And I think she was advising me to never open the gates, And another one I remember hearing was, you better hide some money away because these men, dear, you never know. So you should be prepared. And I mean, I have to be honest, they get you thinking, you start to wonder, Is it because this is something that I should expect? Some of these people have been married longer than I have been. But something that I want to say to those who are looking to get married in the future, be very careful with these, what's it called, these things that are said to you, these statements that are made, because you also have to understand that the person you're dealing with is an individual, separate from all the comments that are being made. Yes, we are all being influenced by the things that we hear, the things that we experience, and the things that we see. But our hope is that as we're preparing towards our nuptials, is that we are preparing a marriage that will last. We are not preparing for a marriage that will end in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whenever. We are preparing for a marriage that will last. We are not preparing for a wedding bee. We are preparing for a marriage. And in preparing for a marriage, you need to look at what a marriage requires to work. And some of these comments that you're hearing around you are not going to help you to make your marriage work. They will help you to survive a traumatic relationship, probably. They will help you to survive, an unexpected, betrayal from your spouse. And you have to understand that this is also from the personal experiences of the people speaking to you. So it's not a general application of the rule. So you have to be very careful, because when you start applying these advices that are given to you, you could actually sway your marriage towards one that won't work, or that will be that will be defunct. And that is not what you want. And so I think for a lot of people, I always ask them to sit down and really look into the future, ask themselves, what do you want? What kind of home do you want to create? What kind of relationship do you want to have with your spouse? And then look at it carefully. What are your expectations? Do they line up with what a healthy marriage would need to survive? If not, for instance, if a man is thinking, oh, once I'm married, yeah, I'm going to get a side chick, that thing that you're preparing to do, is it going to help you to have a healthy marriage? I remember speaking with a gentleman, and he said something to me. He said, yeah, I want to marry, but my wife cannot expect me to be faithful. It's not natural. The Bible shows that many of the men were not faithful to their wives. And I said, okay, I understand that is your expectation, but will you communicate this to your wife?
Yeah.
And he said, no. I said, why? He said, because why should he? I said, but well, it behoves on you to be honest with her. Let her understand what she's buying into, what she's, preparing for. And so one thing is, people need to understand that marriage is not a place to be selfish and not try to establish what you want. It's a place where two people come together to partner. And what is very interesting that people don't seem to realize is both partners are looking to elevate the other person. So it's not about me, it's about serving my spouse.
Right.
It's an act of service. If you don't like it, you can't make it work. It's really challenging and it's really hard, but that is the truth. And he said, no, I'm not going to tell my wife. I said, you have to be honest with her. She needs to know what she's buying into. And that is the role of counseling and preparation, because the counselor is helping the two individuals to also understand what they are buying into. This is where, the things are hiding in the background. We're trying to bring it to the table, so the other person sees that this is what I'm actually going into, so that there are no shocks and there are no surprises. There are no, oh my goodness. And I'm not saying that it's 100% proof, but then during the conversation, sometimes the other person says, hey, wait, this person said something. He said he wants his mother to come and stay with us indefinitely. I didn't hear that when we're dating. He never mentioned that. Am I sure I want to do that? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but is that what you want? Is that the kind of home that you wanted to create? So it's a place where you're also going to say, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I've seen. And the counselor comes in and says, you saw your mom doing this. Well, have you considered that possibly that thing that she was doing has not helped the marriage and is something that you should reconsider doing in your marriage? Okay. The man says, I saw my father, he was always leaving the house late. Okay, is that something you are considering doing? But you have to realize it's not going to help you to have a healthy marriage.
Phoebe.
So this is where we are now exchanging ideas. Yes, I'm here.
So yeah, let me just find out from you on the
Okay,
bit
so
of.
this is,
Sorry, it appears we have
go
a
ahead.
challenge with Phoebe's line. Hello, Phoebe, can you hear me? Hello, Phoebe.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great. So, for you
Yeah, I
as a
can hear you.
counselor, how do you handle that situation? So, this is a young man who says, my wife cannot expect me to be faithful. You ask him to be honest with her. If he doesn't do that, from the little I've read, you cannot go behind him and inform his wife to be that this is the intention your husband to be has. How do you handle that as a counselor, seeing that this is a potential issue that could break the marriage in the long run? Too bad. Phoebe's feed has frozen. We'll try and get the technical team to
Oh,
assist
sure.
in getting her to reconnect. But
Okay.
was that Phoebe? Phoebe, did you hear me? Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't hear the full question. I
Too
just heard
bad.
the
I was
beginning.
asking what you do as a counselor in the kind of situation or
Uh-huh.
scenario you just cited. You ask the husband to be to inform the wife to be about his intentions, be honest with her. But from the little I've read as a counselor, you can't go behind him to inform the lady about this. But seeing that this is a potential issue that could lead to divorce, how do you handle it?
Phew, this is a very sensitive area. I think the best way to address this was actually a friend who made the comment to me, and I was advising him not to go ahead and do that. So I wasn't actually counseling the couple.
Okay.
But the best way to address the situation is to create a conversation between the two. So you ask questions about, okay, so what was the situation like at home? What was the relationship between your father and your mother? Who have been the biggest influences on you when it comes to marriage? What are your personal expectations of marriage? How do you, and then you bring up topics like the importance of fidelity and faithfulness
What if
and
he
what it
lies through
does
his
for the
teeth?
marriage. The build.
I mean, we see
Hmm.
this. And the reason I'm raising this issue is that I know of a young man, Rev, who got a call from a church counselor saying, there's a lady seated before me. She's about to get married to a man. It appears she's not interested. Your name has come up. Her mother seems to be the one forcing her into this relationship. And the gentleman says, well,
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it. The counselor didn't do anything about it. Obviously, he can't force the couple. But in the long run, after about 3 years of marriage, this lady who was married to this gentleman started talking to this other guy whose name came up during the counseling. So for you as counselors, I don't know how you navigate this, because you can clearly see that there's a trouble waiting to happen. And a lot of people have blamed counselors. But in situations like this, what do you do?
You know, you see, that the whole thing about life is that people have to take responsibility. I can do so much
Yeah.
by way of advice. I can do so much by way of counseling. There's nothing that we don't do. There's nothing that we cannot do. By the end of the day, it takes the person to whom advice is given to determine how to deal with it. And what it means is that I've been involved in various situations where marriages are breaking down. You've got reason to believe that there's a third person even in there, and you keep on asking. And people are not honest. I'm talking about even those in church. They will not tell you the truth, because my personal experience shows me that in every relationship, whatever the problems are, those problems can be resolved. I'm talking about a marriage. But when there's a third person in between the marriage, it's almost always difficult, very, very impossible to counsel the couple or to keep the marriage together. But it's all about somebody admitting there's a third person. So, like you said, in the kind of situation that you find yourself, where there's a third person lurking in the background, somebody got to be wise. Somebody got to wise up. Somebody got to make a decision that I'm not married. Before marriage, there are all kind of things that we all get involved in. But when you get married, you have to know that if you don't let this go, this will inevitably collapse your marriage. And therefore, people ought to know the consequences. And when these things come eventually, they will not blame you for not having told them so. That's what life is about. We try to tell people the consequences and the implications of keeping these things. And if they believe that they are wiser than God and they think that somehow they can navigate this one outside the norm, that's why we find opportunity to tell people the causes, the likely effect of all kind of things: lack of commitment, lack of communication, unrealistic expectations about marriage, infidelity. All of these things are the causes, the factors. Both scientists, religious leaders have identified as the causes of the breakdown of marriages. Indeed, in the US, lack of commitment is even, infidelity is not even the fact. Lack of commitment, lack of communication, because he's saying communication is the key. Indeed, and in fact, communication is the key. And communication means people opening up, people bringing up the problems, people bringing up the issues, having the confidence to look one other in the eye, putting the problems down and talking about it as honestly as you can. Because communication, some can give what they call the cold shoulder, some whatever. There are other women, they will talk so much that the easiest thing for you as a man is just to keep up and look them in the eye while they do all the talking. Indeed, in my marriage, I have to work out this issue to get to a point where I could be heard. Okay? Because we're not going to do a shouting match.
But Rev, sometimes personalities come to play. I remember when I was getting married, as part of my church's procedure, we had to do a personality test. And I was told, for example, by my counselor that this is the type of man you're getting married to. He won't, and he's naturally a quiet person. So when you see these tendencies, don't be worried. And I think it's helped me a lot. The conversation is getting interesting by the minute. We'll be going deeper, but you can share your experiences with us. Would like to know, how did you navigate the first 5 years of your marriage? Do send us a message on 055 111 1997 055 111 1997. You can put this number down later when we open the phone lines. You can also give us a call, 0302 216 541 0302 216 541. So let me just thank those who are helping us bring you this really insightful and exciting conversation. Good food brings good memories. That's why taste matters, and Onga is the taste master. As Taste Matters, we give every meal that superior taste. A wide range of Onga flavors assures you of superior taste and irresistible aroma. Why don't you get your Onga powders? The Stew 3 Mix, which is a combination of ginger, onion, and garlic. Our classic and chicken. Oh yes, and for the Onga tablets, the shrimp, chicken, beef, and stew. We have a flavor for every meal. This is just what you need for an Ongalicious meal. And by the way, Ongalicious is the new delicious. Onga, Mama's helping hand. Also, the closing down sale at game stores continues, and there's up to 50% off. Yes, up to 50% off, and everything is reduced. Everything must go, so hurry. Don't miss up to 50% off in the closing down sale at Game. Visit gamestores.com.gh to find your nearest store. You've got Game. And having your baby try out different tastes and flavors isn't just about giving them a change of taste. This helps to develop their palate and prepares them better for accepting varieties of adult food as they grow. So go ahead and try any of our 6 Cerelac varieties: the wheat, maize, rice, biscuity, fruit pieces, and millet. Remember, each bowl of Cerelac contains goodness that helps your child's normal growth and development. Cerelac, it's all good, Mom. This advert is FDA approved, and Roverman Productions, in partnership with Joy FM and the National Theatre, presents an exciting, hilarious, and original Able White play, Husband Material, 7 Yards. It's happening at the National Theatre on the 26th and 27th of November and the 3rd and 4th of December 2022, 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. each day. Tickets for Husband Material 7 Yards come at 100 Ghana cedis and can be obtained as follows. Simply dial star 365 star 535 hash on all networks and follow the prompts for your e-tickets. You can also get physical tickets at the usual outlets: front desk of Joy FM, Shell shops at Airport, East Legon, Tema Community 11 and Dansoman, Total shops at Barchona and Hacho, and Frankie's at Osu. Corporate tickets at special prices are also available. You may also visit Roverman Productions pages on Facebook and Instagram, or call 050-554-6010 or WhatsApp 050-55-46030 for enquiries and booking of tickets. Sponsors: Gino Tomato Mix, GCB Bank PLC, and Ebony Condoms. Buy your tickets for Husband Material 7 Yards now. Roverman Productions, be the difference. We'll take a quick breather now. When we come back, we'll get interactive. Do stay on Home Affairs. Thank you so much for staying here on Home Affairs, making homes out of houses. Let me just announce our WhatsApp lines once again, because we want to hear from you. This morning we are talking about whether the first 5 years of marriage is indeed the make or break of that relationship. And we've been hearing from our counselors in studio. Kweku Yamwa Pencil is a lawyer, he's a pastor, he's a counselor, and Phoebe Besemete is also a family counselor. Do share your thoughts with us on 055-111-1997. What was your experience and how did you make it through? If you're also a young couple, what have you been shocked by in this first few years of your marriage, and how have you been able to resolve those issues? Also keep this number down, 0302 216-541, and later when we open the phone lines, you can give us a call to share your thoughts with us. So let me come back to you, Reb. Just before we took that break, you were talking about the kind of things that people should not do in order to give themselves a fairly stable relationship, and you mentioned unrealistic expectations. Is having a faithful partner an unrealistic expectation?
No, having a faithful partner, on the contrary, is a reasonable expectation that everybody going into a marriage ought to have, in the sense that when you come into a marriage, like what the Bible says, the old is past, everything is new. And therefore, there are reasonable expectations that, however the background of either couple, when you come in, everybody's committed to it. But we use unrealistic expectations or possible unreasonable expectations in the sense that a lot of people consider marriage as a solution to the problems of life. So when they come into marriage, somehow they think things are just going to blossom. They think things are going to work out. No, it's a very wrong assumption. You see, when you see a duck gliding on the surface of a water, what you are seeing is just a gliding. Underneath is a lot of paddling that is taking place. So that is exactly what a good marriage is supposed to be. There's a lot of things that you need to work out between the two people. And therefore, if you've not committed yourself to that hard work, that part of making compromises, that part of allowing one to have a goal whilst the other is filming, that part that makes you think that you are making the marriage work. Indeed, and in fact, that's one of the first things that people need to appreciate. I mean, between me and my wife in our marriage, my wife believes that she does everything to make the marriage work. I also think I do all to make the marriage work, and I think God sits up and laughs. That is the real spirit of marriage. Based on my own personal view and observation of marriage, if you ever read Gulliver's Travels, there is a story about two cities that won a war, and the war was about which side of the egg must be broken. That's half of the quarrels in marriage. That's what it is about. We all want to do the same thing. We are disagreed on how to go about it, and each person, either out of ego, pride, or whatever, thinks that he or she must have a way. Oh, come on. It's, at the end of it, when you sit back and you look back, you just realize that, what is this about? Our daughter has got admission to go to SHS. My wife wants her to go to a Catholic school. I don't really care much, but the truth of the matter is that my daughter has chosen Wege, and my wife wants her to go to This is the Cape Coast.
Holy child.
Holy child, come on. Is that really a quarrel that we must have? Both of them, either of them is as good as the other. At the end of the day, I just have to sit back and allow my child to go to Holy Child. You know what I'm saying?
Compromises.
You know, I had to, because I have to look at it, go beyond things, and realize that whichever way, and I'm telling you that more than 90% of quarrels in a marriage is all what this is about. And it's about pride, and it's about ego, and it's about people need to sit back and know. Even when you are fundamentally disagreed, one person must have his or her way.
We all want the same thing, but how to get
How
there
to
is
go
the
about
problem.
it? You were right.
Okay. It's like a conversation we were having in the newsroom the last time about the finance minister's exit.
That
The
is,
majority and minority want the same thing,
That is,
but they all don't want to use the same
that
route.
is,
Interesting. We have a message from Ikea from airport. Very great conversation. Communication is the answer, as Rev says. But if one partner refuses to communicate because the problem has been dissected over and over again, what do you do? Do women lose their rights when they get married? She's asking. This is what one part told his wife. The last is talking back to a partner whilst he is talking, and this means that you're being disrespectful. So, quickly, Rev, let's just do this quickly so that we can delve into other aspects of our conversation. What do you do? We have an issue. We've spoken about it over and over and over again. One party says, look, I'm not talking about this again, but the problem persists. What do we do?
Yeah, something must be done. One person must have his way, at least for the meanwhile. Must have his way. Life. Let me tell you. I'll make a confession here. I got into a marriage. Thought my wife was so selfish. Thought she was uncaring. Thought because of the way she would do things. My wife had in the court every year. She must go on her holidays, however young the children were. And I was thinking that she was being so whatever. Until a day or a time came that I had to give an advice to a young woman who was going through trauma in her marriage. Tell her to do the things that my wife used to do, for which I call her selfish. Because I realized that even children, they can blackmail you, emotional blackmail. You get all your life around them and you lose focus and you can't get to do the things that ordinary must do. So let not any couple think that once they are disagreed and the two of them have not come to an agreement, nothing must be done. Let something be done. And when it is being done, don't just hold it on, because nobody is God. Nobody really can tell the end result of any decision that he takes. I have taken decisions and I've blundered so badly. I took my son out of Ghana to UK because the sister had been there to attend this from, and I assumed my wife was fundamentally opposed to it. I just ignored her and let the son go, and it became a flop. You know, so these are life lessons that humbles you. And when I'm speaking to a young person today, I'll tell you, so don't believe that because you're the man, you must have your way all the time.
Right.
Because at the time that I took this, I made an assumption. And that assumption turned out to be so fundamentally flawed. So now I look back and I don't know really what to say. So these are the kind of things that people need to appreciate. Young couple, if you are listening to me, you are not a man because you're a man. You are not a woman because you're a woman. We take decisions, and at the end of the day, it's going to affect both of you. It's going to affect the family. And please, even when you disagree, pray to God that even the point on which you disagreed, which your wife wants to do, let it succeed. Because that's life. You don't believe that because you think something must be done a particular way, you are going to succeed with it. The Apostle Paul said, I plant, Apollos waters, but it's God that gives the increase. So that God factor in everything that we do must be the guiding factor for couples whenever they are doing these things.
Men, please, you're not always right. I think the bottom line is Rev has admitted that men, you are not always right. Phoebe wants to say something. Phoebe, I'll let you go ahead, but once you're done with what you want to say, just quickly touch on the bit of post-marital counseling. You raised it earlier. When the kids come in, when a woman is depressed, when we are wondering which school to take our child to, what do we do? How do we encourage people that it's not a shame if after marriage you still want to seek advice, even 3 or 4 or 5 years after being married?
You know, I was just going to add that as Uncle Quick was speaking, I just remembered something that I do with couples when we start the counseling session. And one of the questions that I ask them is, what is your worldview? because a person's worldview determines the way they make decisions about everything, about their money, about the schools that they will attend, about the kind of marriage they have, about the kind of home that they want to create. The reason why I ask that is I think sometimes we assume that the person, for instance, is Christian or has Christian values. And that it can be quite problematic because when you look at the foundation of it, sometimes the person doesn't have Christian values, does not believe in one man, one woman, being married and being faithful. They do, some of them do
Even
not
some
even want.
Christians, Phoebe, some Christians will quote portions of the Bible to cite why they think that a man can marry more than one.
Exactly, exactly. So that is one of the crucial and critical issues that we see in a lot of the issues that some of these young couples have. They don't have the same worldview. The woman is expecting that we are going to be working together, we are going to be partners. I mean, I saw that lady's question, and it just threw me back to a challenge that a friend had. They are together, they are married, but the husband, it's like they're in the same house, but they're different people. The husband has the way he's doing his things. She's the sole carer of the child, and there's no meeting point. They are not together, but they're in the house and they are married. And I realized that, and we've been talking for a while. And one of the big problems is that the man does not see that his wife has a say or should have an opinion on the way things are happening in the home. He doesn't believe that her voice is needed in the way things are run in the house. So they are different ends of the equation. They are not working together, and the house is fragmented and it's fractured. And one of the reasons why this happens is sometimes we don't really know how the other person really thinks about marriage, how they really think about how a home is supposed to be kept. And so you are dating, you're having a great time, it's all romantic, it's lovely. But when it comes down to it, that person may not even believe that you have anything to say when it comes to the running of the home. And then when you get into it, now you're facing all these issues. Now you ask the question about post marital counseling. I think that every counselor, to start with, should have a counselor because we know the value of counseling. We know the benefits of having a third person also just walk with you through that journey. And I think that it's so essential that, if things are reaching their head and you guys are not able to come to an understanding, that you take these issues to a professional counselor and you have the conversation. Sorry, that's my son.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I think that is very important that you do not feel ashamed to take the conversation to someone else.
Phoebe,
To
what
have
if one partner doesn't want to see the counselor? Because I think that most of the time, I think that women are more open to talking to a third party
okay.
than men are. So what do you do in that instance?
I think that then the woman should start getting counseling. She needs support, especially if they're in a very tricky, situation. She needs to go and get support. She needs to get some help. She needs to talk to someone. If the man does not want to go to a counselor, what I find that is sometimes is the particular person that you're going to speak to. Ask him to pick someone that he trusts, that he respects, and say, could we please go speak to that person? That sometimes doesn't work, but at least give that option a try. But in the situation where he doesn't want to speak to anybody, you go and get help.
Right.
Start getting help. Start getting support. Build up capacity, because what happens is when there's an issue, the woman usually becomes very drained. She's not able to function. She's having her own issues. She's suffering from her own trauma. She's struggling to just be in the home. So at that point, get help. Don't wait for the man to say, okay, let's go. If he's not willing to go, at least start getting help. Start using the tools that you're also getting in counseling to try and address the issue the best way you can. Don't sit at home and don't get help.
Right.
Get help. And I just wanted to say as well, I like what Uncle Kweku was saying, that please, what's it called? Couples, not all men cheat. Let me be the one who has said it. Please, I'll make the placard. Not all men cheat. All men do not cheat. And I'm saying this out loud for any woman that has been programmed into thinking like this, that you do not have to have that expectation. Because when you do, unfortunately, what sometimes happens is you end up selecting or choosing a partner that will definitely cheat on you. Because even when you see the signs, you ignore them because you think it's normal.
Or
And so,
maybe when you have that
Mhm.
expectation, you begin to pick on very insignificant things your spouse may be doing, which may rather push him into doing it anyway. Because I'm not doing it,
Exactly.
you're accusing me. Why are you thinking that way? I just stepped out. I came back at 9 p.m. You know.
Exactly, exactly. Or I text you, but you didn't respond
Mm,
when I expected you
mm-hmm,
to,
mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. You don't need to have that in your mind. You do not need to have that
Right,
thought, that expectation in your mind.
right.
It is destructive and it should not be there.
Right, Phoebe. So it's now time to take your calls. 0302 216 541. 0302 216 541 is the number to call. But if you still want to send us a WhatsApp message, 055 111 1997 is the number to call. Quickly, Rev, someone wanted to find out the title of the book you referred to.
Gulliver's Travel.
Gulliver's Travels.
Travel.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do on marriage, but I just picked
Pick the
that this thing
principle.
for you. Very
Right.
right.
Okay.
Very right.
So this is coming from Ken in Kaswa. He says, "Good morning, counselors. Thank you for your good work. Please, I'm in a relationship with a lady who is a mother of one. Her daughter is almost 10 years old. I'm already playing the fatherly role, not financially. The challenge is, how do I break it to my family? My family only know her, but not her daughter." Rev, quickly.
It's not difficult. It's your marriage. You choose to marry a woman with one child. That is your decision. So there should be no difficulty whatsoever in telling people. Those who are not happy with it, it's their business. It's got nothing to do with it. So please go ahead and tell them. And you need to know, if she's somebody's child, tell them that this woman you married, and it's not strange at all that we have these kind of relationships. So please go ahead and tell them.
All right, so there's somebody who's sharing his experience with us. EKH, we've seen your message, but you're generally talking about the behavior of your partner. You're saying that you didn't know from the beginning that she was disrespectful and a chronic liar. You're saying that she disgraced you to family friends. Okay. Her behavior prompted you to go through her phone only to find love messages to her boyfriend. All right. So you don't have any question, or you're not soliciting advice from our counselors, but you are basically saying that she's never remembered and wished you well on your birthday. She's stingy. She doesn't contribute to anything in your life. Okay. So he thinks that men are not always to be blamed in marital problems. You say that some women are really destroying their marriages. But based on what you said, EKH, I don't know if you've spoken to a counselor, but Rev, from his experience, you think he needs to see somebody or talk to somebody?
He needs to work on himself. You see, I keep on telling couples that in every marriage, when people come, they want to talk and make a devil out of the other party. They don't tell you what they contribute to make that person a devil.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is that it takes two to tango. And however your marriage partner is, there is always something that you can do to bring the person around. I honestly believe in that.
What if there's nothing to do to bring the person around?
No, there's always something to do. You see, they said the woman is a prostitute. The woman is quarrelsome. The woman is what? You can change your attitude towards her in so many ways, in so many respects.
But Rev, so this may be a conversation for another day, but that is an issue a lot of people have with the church. They say that we keep people in relationships that are realistically beyond salvation. Okay, so yes, there are instances where, and a lot of people, especially I see it a lot, my feminist friends on Facebook, who are upset with that movie War Room. But that's a conversation for another day. We have our first caller, Ajiman Joseph, who joins us on the line. Hello, Joseph. Let's hear you.
Good morning, madam. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
I didn't start from the beginning, so if I may ask of your name.
My name is Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah.
Oh, yeah, the champion news reader.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very wonderful conversation. God bless Rev for speaking the truth, being balanced with these issues. My question is, don't you think both partners should be balanced in terms of finances? Because sometimes when it happens, like when one partner has the money or financially sound than the other, and he or she seems to be doing enough or more in the family, he or she listens to himself more than the partner.
All right, Joseph, I get your point. So Phoebe, quickly, in about 30 seconds, addresses his issue. He's saying that usually he who pays the piper calls the tune. Basically, that's what he's saying. That if I contribute a lot financially to the marriage or to the home, then it necessarily means that what I say is what should be given premium. And so he's thinking that if we balance it, then when I say half, you also say half.
No, that should not be the case. That's why I said that the case for marriage is that two people are coming together to be one. You're working together. It's not about who is more financially, should I say, sound that makes that decision. It doesn't even mean that the person who has more money can make the better decision. It just means that that person has more money. But if you are supposed to be a faithful couple, if you're working towards building a family, I believe both voices have an equal say in the way the finances are managed. Some people will disagree, but I believe if you want your marriage to be healthy and strong, you should give the opportunity to the other person to also weigh in. Sometimes, like Reb was saying, so one person will have to have their way, not the other. But that's why you have to build these communication skills early, so that you have a system where you sit down, you're able to weigh the pros and cons on your financial decisions and make a final, decision on what you're going to do. But it doesn't mean that the person making more money makes the ultimate decision. I don't agree.
But the big question even is that is there such a thing as my money in a marriage? Or
I
it's
personally
our
do not
money?
agree.
There need not
I
be.
do. Our
Is
money.
it our money or my money?
You know, the woman's theory is mine
It's
is
our-
mine, yours is ours. That's what
Yeah.
goes over me.
Interesting. We had a message on WhatsApp from a gentleman in Somenya who says that he's enjoying the conversation, but he says that yes, his wife accused him of cheating to the extent that he started cheating. Literally pushed him into it. And so, like we see in the movies, and like you said, men sometimes they don't like to have an altercation or an argument. So you come to the house and the lady is complaining, and I'm citing what we see in the movies, not any real experience. So the counselors can tell me if I'm wrong. And then the gentleman says, well, I'm tired of all of this. And then he steps out and finds a nice lady who is accommodating and welcoming, and then they fall for the.
You see, let me make
the
this
trap.
point very clear. That a lot of the reasons men give themselves to cheat and whatever, with the greatest respect, is foolishness. And I'll explain it. You don't begin to steal because people accuse you of stealing.
Right.
You don't begin to. In a lot of men, the basic reason is that the wife denies him sex. Come on, God created man. If you look at Galatians, I think chapter 5, verse 23, the gift of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, good. The last one is self-control. That's why when a man wants to urinate, he can wait 5 hours to get a convenient place to urinate.
But
That's
that will
why-
affect his kidneys. So if I keep
No,
denying
I'm
myself
saying
sex,
about how we control ourselves
Yeah.
in everything.
Yeah.
So if your wife denies you sex 2-3 days or even 1 month, that the reason for cheating. So I'm talking about rationalization.
Right, I get your
People do
point.
things that they want to rationalize it. Your wife calls you a womanizer. You know you are not a womanizer. That's the better reason for staying the way you are. But you can't say that because my wife started. Next time she starts stealing because the wife calls him a thief.
Interesting, right?
Yes. No, I'm telling that half of the reasons men give themselves for doing the kind of things they do, with the greatest respect, cannot be a real reason. And therefore, they must re-examine. I'm a man, okay? They must re-examine all of these things and know that it can't be the real reason why they do things. So if he's in it because the wife said it, please, he should stop.
All right.
If he wants to save his marriage.
Right, Charlie, I know say as you dey come job this morning, now you dey rush sake if you make late. So if you pass until money in there, but make you no worry, take this Royal King cracker, take chuck your hunger. The traffic set, the workload for the office set, the meeting will be long. Where you dey hung, make you no shiver cries. Royal King cracker day there. You can always chuck the hunger to keep the vim up. Royal King cracker, take chuck your hunger. We all know hunger can make you slow, but with the heat in the system, Charlie, no time for dulling or grab grab a pack of Royal King Cracker and choke the hunger to keep your burger level intact. Royal King Cracker, take choke your hunger. And good food brings good memories. That's why taste matters, and Onga is the taste master. As taste matters, we give every meal that superior taste. A wide range of Onga flavors assures you of superior taste and irresistible aroma. Why don't you get your Onga powders, the Stew 3 Mix, which is a combination of ginger, onion, and garlic, our classic chicken. Oh yes, and for the Onga tablets, the shrimp, chicken, beef, and stew, we have a flavor for every meal. This is just what you need for an Ongalicious meal. And by the way, Ongalicious is the new delicious. Onga, Mama's helping hand. And the closing down sale at game stores continues, and there's up to 50% off. Yes, up to 50% off, and everything is reduced. Everything must go. So hurry, don't miss up on 50% off in the closing down sale at Game. Visit gamestores.com.gh to find your nearest store. You've got Game. And tomorrow, the 20th of November, is World Children's Day. And as part of commemorating it here in Ghana, the Ghana Statistical Service has put a spotlight on vulnerable children in Ghana for World Children's Day. And there's some interesting statistics to share. Well, statistics from the 2021 Population and Housing Census reveal that 1,215,546 children of school-going age in Ghana are not attending school. That's problematic. Out of that number, almost 1 million children have never attended school. There are 5,976 children in Ghana living without shelter. That is, they're sleeping outdoors. About 2 in every 5 of the children without shelter are in the Greater Accra region, which has the highest share, followed by the Ashanti region. So as we commemorate World Children's Day, you just want to keep your eye on your children and give them what they deserve the most. And before we go, a very happy birthday to Nanaya Ayebia Edu Anan, boss lady at Fiber Wealth Limited. You live at Santor, and this is from your brothers, Dr. Yawa Safo, Drive Doctor Kwesi and Kojo. They say that they would like to trouble you for another 41 years, so they are asking God for long life for you. Too bad when you're having a good time, you quickly run out of time. But let me just say thank you so much to you, pastor, counselor, lawyer, Keku Yamwa Paintel, and Phoebe Besemete. Thank you all so much. We will definitely continue the conversation because there's a lot to talk about and there's a lot to dissect. But thank you so much, all of you who make time to join us. God willing, next week we'll try and make more time for interaction, because I saw that a lot of people wanted to take advantage of our counselors here to get some free counseling. But anyway, that's why we are here, making homes out of houses. But for now, from me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, it's goodbye. Do stay with us here on your superstation. We've got more for you. The Weekend City Show is up next.